You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Welcome in and welcome all. We are back. It's the Insight NFL Podcast. Tuesday, 21st of October. The final games of Week 7 have just closed out, and we will be getting to them very shortly. But after that, we've got our waiver wire show for the week. It's the number one show you can have to get yourself ready for the week ahead in traditional fantasy. Mav, a pleasure as always to see your face across from my mate. How are you feeling? I know I'm feeling pretty good that I didn't face you in any of our matchups this week, so I came away with a couple of wins. But how are you going with your fantasy this week?
Oh, mate, I'm struggling to get a clean sweep, to be honest with you. 9 leagues, so there's a lot of leagues. I know you've got more, but I'm in 9 myself. Went 8 for 9 this week, actually. And the only game that I lost in was a game where I had Jake Bates as a kicker who was missing field goals and CJ Stroud throwing pies. So, and then only lost by a point. So, yeah, that was rough. But shout out to Brady's World out there, or King Dongs if you're listening. But no, it's looking pretty good in the Creators League too, mate. I just keep on winning with a really crap squad. But yeah, anyway. We won't go into the Creators League too much, mate. You might start crying.
Hey, I won't be crying this week, that's for sure. Got a nice little win over DFAB. DFAB, if you're listening to this one, if you've ever been to India, we'll get that one into you, mate. That's me for the week. But guys, before jumping in, we will have some injuries to cover. We don't have a whole heap. There was a heap of injuries that happened from yesterday, but we'll have news on them further in the week, and we'll be covering them probably Thursday night show. We'll have the latest updates. But there was a couple from today's game, so we'll jump into our injuries right now. So injuries from the top, Mav. Mike Evans in this game against the Lions. The Lions, the Bucks, they were battling for receivers, and they just lost their number one guy back after his injury. Broken collarbone. Looks like he could be out until December. We will have some more firm updates probably on that later this week, but broken collarbone for Mike Evans. Mav, I know we saw Egbuka bravely getting out onto the field today after he was a true game time decision given his hamstring. And now Mike Evans, after coming back from his hamstring, his broken collarbone, expected to miss a few weeks here. So how are you feeling about the Bucks moving forward? I believe they've got a bye after next week, so they'll have a little bit of time to get healthy, but how are you feeling here moving on?
Well, I was shocked that Egbuka played, to be honest. It was rumored to be a 2-3 week injury when he did it. Was it late last week? And then came today and had 12 targets. Obviously, due to necessity because the game script was negative for the majority of the time. But again, there was really no restrictions out there for Egbuka. He looked okay for the most part. So Mike Evans is a huge loss, man. It's a huge loss for the offense. Godwin can't get healthy at the moment either. So we're going to have Bucky back soon, maybe after the bye. We'll see how he's trending. But Mike Evans' massive loss. He's 1,000-yard season's now in jeopardy. He probably won't hit it now. I think he's due back in December or something like that, maybe somewhere around that. And that he's already had an injury to start the year anyway, so he's no chance probably at the 1,000-yard Mike. So that's come to an end for big old Mike. But now we'll see how good Baker Mayfield really is. We've seen Jaden Daniels struggle without his 2 wideouts when they had no McLaurin and no Debo. So let's see how Baker can struggle through his next few weeks. That maybe Godwin, or definitely Mike Evans. Egbuka's obviously banged up. So let's see what Baker's got.
Yeah, and I think with this news and the trade deadline looming, wouldn't be surprised if the Buccaneers try and bring in another wide receiver to this core. They're definitely a Super Bowl contending team, and when Baker's been as hot, you've got to give him some weapons there. So yeah, Mike Evans down, potential return in December. Also in one of the games today, Nico Collins, star wideout for the Texans, he had a concussion towards the second or back end of the second half in this game. Didn't return, and they were definitely in a place in the game where they could have came back. So it's pretty serious when he was ruled out. The offense looks absolutely horrid as a whole. Nico Collins was the only person that I was looking to have on this team whatsoever. With this injury, Mav, to Nico Collins, good chance he misses next week. next man up mentality? I know we'll have a couple of options here, but is there anyone there that you're liking before we get into waivers later on?
Mate, I'll be honest with you. I just don't care for the Texans offense. I was a bit. I came into the year thinking that CJ Stroud might bounce back a little bit. The offensive line is probably the same, if not worse, than last year, which is a dog shit offensive line last year. So this year it's still shit. So I was a bit hopeful. I suppose is probably the word that CJ Stroud can sort of reenact his rookie year, but that's not looking like that's going to be the case. The offense in general is pretty shit. Woody Marks had 10 carries for 15 yards, so that was crap. But there's just nothing there that I like about the Texans. So if Nico misses time or any time, let's see how he goes. I still don't really care for it with or without him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a very tough offense to look at, but we might have a couple of sneaky options later on in our waivers. And really, the last new bit of injuries that we've come up and didn't cover on last night's show. Cole Kmet, tight end for the Chicago Bears. Looks like he might miss week 8 with a back injury as well. So one to monitor, and we will have Colson Loveland in our tight end section once we get to it. Nice little teaser for you there. But that's really all the injuries. Like I mentioned, we will have more updates on this later on in the week. So make sure to stay tuned in tomorrow and also Thursday night show, and we'll be able to keep you guys up to date there. But before jumping into the waivers, we will cover the last 2 games of the week. Here is our rewind for week 7. Starting things off, the Buccaneers heading to Detroit and getting smacked 24-9. Lions get the win. Baker Mayfield on the Buccaneers side of the ball. He had to throw the ball 50 times. They were never in a place to lead at all this game. They just couldn't really get anything going. Rashad White on the ground was gross, 10 for 38. Back to his inefficient self. Sean Tucker, he had 1 carry himself for 4 yards, nothing there. In the receiving, with the news to Mike Evans and Egbuka dealing with that hamstring, Kate Otten was the main beneficiary, 7 for 65 on 9 targets. And Tez Johnson, if you picked him off waivers last week, you would have been happy with his spot start with 4 for 58 and a touchdown through the air. Egbuka, even though with the injury, 4 for 58 on 12 targets. So again, still commanding all that volume, but you could tell he did not look 100% in this one. That's really it from the Tampa Bay side of the ball. Again, Baker, 1 touchdown, 1 in, 228 yards on 50 attempts, so nothing too hot. The Bucs just couldn't really get it going at all. And on the Detroit side of the ball, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're the only 2 guys that gave you anything this week. Jahmyr Gibbs, 17 for 136 and 2 touchdowns on the ground, also adding 3 for 82 through the air, and Amon-Ra 6 for 86 and a score in the receiving game. Jared Goff, 241 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. You're not too happy with that for fantasy. It's pretty middle of the pack. But Mav, this game here for you, any key takeaways? I know the Buccaneers are super banged up. Hopefully getting Bucky and maybe even Godwin back next week before the bye, or if not after. Is there any hope moving forward? They do have the Saints in week 8, so it is an exploitable matchup there.
Yeah, I mean, both sides. I was expecting a potential shootout coming into this game. I was pretty disappointed when we saw some injuries. Obviously, Mike Evans come up in this game early too. He was out cold and then obviously drove his shoulder into the ground and just, absolutely tore that apart. But, the Bucks, I don't know, man. They need Bucky back, obviously. They probably need Godwin back. They probably need Egbuka healthy. To take this offense seriously again. Look, Baker's been looking okay, but less than 50 or I think it was just over 50% pass completion. So he struggled a little bit in this game. I'm hopeful that they can sort of bounce it back and bring it back to what we think the Bucks can be like. But again, it's going to be tough without some solid wideouts there as well. So. Jahmyr Gibbs was awesome though in this one. He was fantastic. He's the reason why you take this guy so high in the draft. He's capable of these big boy games, despite David Montgomery having 13 carries. He was 17 to 13, and Jahmyr Gibbs has the 85-yard touchdown. That's worth about 14, 15 points in itself right there. And obviously big receptions on the way and just efficient touchdowns. Everything, he gives you the whole lot. Jahmyr Gibbs. I was actually down in one league, in one of the insight leagues, actually. I was down by 23 points or something like that. So I needed I need 23 or 24 points. I can't remember out of Jimmy Gibbs ended up giving me 35. So
Yep.
it's why he drafted him so high. He's the man. You can't put a price tag on him in fantasy. He's like Christian McCaffrey when healthy. He's like Saquon Barkley last year. Like you cannot put a price tag on these premium running backs that are just gold that can put on fantasy points for fun. Bijan Robinson would be in the same case too, actually. But you just can't put a price tag on those guys. They're invaluable.
No doubt. And just to think that Jimmy Gibbs is doing this while splitting the backfield with David Montgomery. We saw what he did last year when Monty went down. I think he was averaging like 30 odd points a game in fantasy over that week, that 3 or 4 week stretch. So that's the ceiling there. But at the moment, what you're getting from Gibbs is just the absolute goods. Looking at negative guys here for the Lions side of the ball, I wish I took my advice on our buy low, sell high show last week. I had Jamison Williams as a sell high after his bounce back. 1 target, no catches. 2 targets, no catches in this one. Should have tried harder. It's going to be super hard to try and even move him away now, especially while the Lions are on the bye. No idea what's happening with this. John Morton, the new OC, coming in deck, talking all these high praises of Jamison Williams preseason, and he's been a very big flop for these guys this year. And Sam Laporta, he's been okay, but in this game, 3 for 15, they just didn't really need anybody else besides Amon-Ra and Jimmy Gibbs in this one.
That's the offense.
So, yeah, that's the offense.
That's where the majority of the bulk of the work goes to. And obviously, you can put in David Montgomery with that too. I mean, he had 13 carries, 21 yards in this one. So, again, workload there, but efficiency wasn't there as well. So, outside of those 2 big boys, or 3 big boys even, I'll put Montgomery in. You might get spot starts out of Jamison Williams or Laporta. It's very rare you're going to get all 5 guys up on the same week on the same team. It's just so hard. There's only one ball to go around. So Laporta's fine as a spot starts as such, but again, he cannot rely on him as a fantasy option for the rest of the season.
No, absolutely. And moving on to the next game, the Texans coming off the bye, going to Seattle and losing 27-19. I watched the back end of this game. The Texans are gross. I don't want anything to do with the Texans. It's Nico Collins and nobody else. I've got Woody Marks in a couple of spots. I'll be definitely looking to move off him this week, just given where he had a score. Recapping the game, CJ Stroud, very similar stat line to Baker Mayfield, 3 for 49 times, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, added 25 yards on the ground, and he was the leading rusher for the team. Nick Chubb, 5 for 16, and Woody Marks, 10 for 15. Could not do anything, but in that receiving game, Nico Collins did go down. He did see 10 targets in the time he was on the field, only 4 for 27, but Dalton Schultz, the doctor, stepped up in a big way, 9 for 98 on 10 targets. And Jalen Noel was the rookie that emerged with Christian Kirk on the bench as I believe he was injured, didn't make the cut this week. 4 for 77 on 7 targets. Jaden Higgins, 3 targets, no catches. And I think a lot of this, some of the play calls in this game, I know we were talking a little bit off air. There was 8 minutes or so to go, only down 2 scores, plenty of time, all their timeouts. And in one series, 3 long shots in a row. Just, I don't know what they were doing. Absolutely no hope, especially when CJ Stroud has protection for all of 2 seconds with how bad that O-line is. So Houston is absolutely gross on this one here. Mav, anything you want to add in on the Texans before we go to the Seahawks?
Not really. Dalton Schultz is probably the only one to value in this team at the moment. Obviously outside of Nico Collins. But anyone else on the Texans is gross viewing. I think he had 8 or 9 I think he had 8 catches for 80 yards, 90 yards, something like that. I think it was short stuff in my head. So he's probably the only one actually worth noting on this Texans team. But yeah, it is gross, isn't it? It really is. If Nico misses a week, for argument's sake, who steps up at wide receiver? Who can take these 8 to 10 targets again that he sees? Who can take that workload? I don't think any of the receivers are actually capable of doing that. I don't really know what's going on with Christian Kirk, mate, to be honest with you. He was obviously banged up at the start of the year, but he can't stay healthy at the moment at all, it seems. And who knows when he can get back onto the park? Because again, he's okay when he's healthy. He's not bad about running in the slot, but he's just one of those guys that he can't get in the park at the moment. It's hurting himself and the team, really.
Yeah, and I think we could see Noel The rookie there really stepping in his space. He's the only one in that receiving call with juice by the looks of it, but that's enough on the Texans. The winners, the Seahawks. Sam Darnold, 17 for 31, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nothing too hot in this game. The rushing side of the Seahawks of this one, Kenneth Walker, 17 for 66, just under 4 a carry. And Zach Charbonnet, as always, 12 for 49 and 2 touchdowns. Mav, is this ever going to change? Are they going to keep Kenny Walker and Charbonnet on this team? It's just, as soon as they get down to that goal line within the 5, Kenneth Walker may as well be in the dressing sheds at that point. They don't even look at him whatsoever.
Yeah, there's a reason why I've not traded for Kenny Walker. I've had opportunities to go and get him in many leagues, actually, but I just generally have no interest at this point in time on Kenny Walker. When the seagull, Zach Charbonnet, comes in and sees a hot chippy on the ground, and he's going to go grab it with his mouth and his beak. And that's what Zach Charbonnet is doing. He's stealing touchdowns and picking at the carcass of Kenny Walker, really. So, yeah, generally no interest in Kenny Walker. Zach Charbonnet holds a bit of value. I'm not massive on Zach Charbonnet, but again, goal line back holds value in fantasy football. Barely, but he does. He saw 12 carries today, so he was okay, but the 2 touchdowns really sort of boosted his score up. And that's why he scored a big 18-pointer in this game. Smith and Jigba, mate, continues to keep on going, doesn't he? He 8 for 14, 123 and a touchdown, and a nice touchdown celebration of dunk. NBA's back tomorrow. He's obviously in the spirit. He's got the week off next week, so he's up and about. He's going to sit on the couch and watch some NBA, I reckon, because that was a good sally. If you're into basketball, that would have got you up and about, I reckon.
Yeah, he's matchup proof. I was a little bit worried about this matchup with Derek Stingley. They've also got Kamari Lassiter in that secondary for the Texans. All in all, very defensive structured team with D'Amico Ryans at head coach. But it just doesn't matter. This guy's too good. His connection with Darnold is just off the charts. Darnold threw the ball 31 times. Nearly half of those targets went to JSN there as well. And we can't see that changing. Elijah Arroyo, rookie tight end, he saw some good work in this one, 4 for 42 on 5 targets. That's probably his best game of the year. And Cooper Kupp, 1 catch, 1 target, 32 yards there. So really, besides JSN, maybe one of the tight ends and that dual threat running back room, there's really nothing else here from the Seahawks.
Well, it's hard to even grab a hold on this tight end room at Seattle too. I mean, one week it's Barner, another week it's Arroyo getting some action or increasing some work at least anyway. I mean, he's got 5 targets, season high for him this week, and Arroyo is actually the passing or the receiving tight end, and Barnum's usually the blocking tight end, and they've actually switched that around a little bit. So I don't know if that's things to come. They want to switch that around and get Arroyo more involved in the action, in the receiving work, but they want to keep Barner in. But mate, Barner's been awesome this year. A bit of a 4 or 5 touchdowns on the year, I think it is top of my head. 4 touchdowns on the year, and he's seen more than 3 targets once, and that was 7 in week 5. But again, he's not a receiving tight end.
Yeah, and it could be Arroyo with the Seahawks going on bye next week. We usually do see those rookies coming out of the bye, normally a bit more game planned into the team. So, yeah, we'll wait and see. It could be Arroyo steps up in a big way after the Seahawks buys. But that closes out the final 2 games of week 7. We'll jump straight into the waiver wire. So, to kick things off, we will be switching around the format a little bit this week. Really trying to focus on those running backs and wide receiver positions as we try and navigate through these buys. Starting off with running backs, Kyle Monongai, he was a list of our previous waiver shows. He's still only at 11%. I know I tried to pick him up in a whole heap of leagues once I heard that DeAndre Swift might have been inactive in this one. Of course, that wasn't the case. But Monongai didn't matter. We saw his season high in snap percentages, 45%. And season high in touches. He had 13 for 81 on the ground and 3 targets, 2 catches for 13 yards through the air. So what we like to see for Chicago, he could be slotting into that David Montgomery role in head coach Ben Johnson's offense. Mav, Cole Monongai for you. He's only rostered by 11%, as I mentioned, coming off the bye. We've got 6 teams on bye this week. Is he your number 1 running back to bring in this one?
Well, yeah, he probably would be. He's got 2 or 3 juicy matchups coming up too. Swift has been okay. I thought Swift is well, he had 19 carries in this game too against New Orleans, and Monongo had, what was it, 12, top of my head. So there's opportunity there for Monongo. I don't think they're gonna. Reality is, I just don't think that the Bears are going to have 30 plus carries in their offense moving forward. I think game script wise, it might work out for them if that allows them to. If they're up in a game and they don't want Caleb Williams sort of trying to lose them the game, but I just Monongo probably would be, but I just think this week was a big beneficiary of game script.
Yeah, for sure. And with the next games coming up, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Giants. Mav, if you are running back needy and you need to plug a hole this week, in terms of fab, what type of percentage would you be willing to throw at Monongo?
Not much. I wouldn't chuck anything more than 10%, to be honest with you. I don't think he's still worth a lot in waiver wire despite anything. I guess if you're RB needy, you need a spot start for the week, maybe. But again, I can see him coming out next week and dropping a 3 or a 4 and only seeing 7 carries, 8 carries and not doing much with it. And then Swift seeing his normal workload. And then they play Baltimore, I suppose. So at least they're going to have a healthy Lamar back in the game, so they might actually be forced to score and throw the ball a bit. So depending on what Baltimore we see on the offensive end, but I just don't think he's worth a lot to throw out the window. I just there's no to see a 4 coming his way next week, mate. We need injuries to DeAndre Swift to really take Monongo seriously at this point, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And the next guy we have here, Brashard Smith. He's at a low 9%. Another aforementioned on this show. Season high in touches with 19, mainly thanks to the garbage time. And they blew out the Raiders in this one, 31-0. So they gave the rookie a bit of a chance here. But could he potentially be a nice little sneaky ad, because there is a little injury to Kareem Hunt as well. He left the game early in this game. He did come back, but again, he didn't really look like himself. So if it's a 2-horse race between Pacheco and Brashard Smith, could he see a little bit of an opportunity there to help get you through the buys?
I'd be shocked personally. I don't think that would be the case. I think it's going to be Kareem Hunt, Pacheco until then. Look, again, I think they're going to make a trade. They could go out and get Breece Hall at some point, and that will just change everything. That'll just none of these running backs will have any value outside of Breece. Like, they might take Breece Hall. I'm just hypothetically talking. But no, I mean, look, he had 14 carries for 39 yards, so it was under 3 yards per carry. Game script wise is spot on, man. They were killing him early. They didn't really need to play their starters at all. Give the kids a bit of a run, or the backups and the third stringers as such. If they want to have a bit of a run or an extended run out there, they could. And Brashard Smith was one of those guys who was the beneficiary of that. But again, I'm not too in. To be honest, I think Kareem Hunt, Pacheco will be split into the end of the day, really.
And in terms of another name that we have here, Mav, of a running back that could get you through the buys, who else do you think as we look forward to week 8?
Look, I mean, Tajay Spears is probably one if he's on the waiver wire. Tony Pollard's had a complete change of role. So I don't know if he's going to get traded or if he's just getting phased out of the offense. But Tajay Spears was one for us last week, and again for this week, if he's still available, I think would be one to target. Again, the Titans' offense is pretty gross for the most part, so take that for what you will. If he's available, I think he's worth holding, stashing, or adding onto your roster. Another one that I'd like to mention, and he won't be on many waivers at the moment, but he could be at the end of the day tomorrow, would be Travion Henderson. Now, there's a lot of people that are getting a bit frustrated and a bit, don't know what to do with him. Do we hold him? Due to his high draft capital, managers might just pop him on the bench and just hold him there until we see any sort of decision, I suppose, to what you do with him. But I think there'll be a lot of managers out there will just get rid of him as well and just chuck him to the waiver wire and move on. So keep an eye out for Travion Henderson, because if he's on the waiver wire at the end of the day, Wednesday, waivers will then go through on the Thursday. I think he's worth something still. I'd chuck some FAB on him personally. Again, FAB means nothing to me, so I would be chucking dollars on him and hoping that role change might happen soon.
What a change a few months can make. I mean, Henderson was the absolute hotness for sure. Going into an offense, all he had to do was beat out the fumbling Ramondre Stevenson. Even with all the fumbles, he still can't get on the field. And this was his lowest snap percentage of the year, 14%. They did rout the Titans, but even still, I know Mike Vrabel, the head coach, came out and he was giving praise to Terrell Jennings, an undrafted running back that they brought in. He said that he was going to be their new 5-minute running back. So, I mean, Henderson, they drafted him so early in the second round, just makes absolutely no sense to me. But love the call, Mav. Every chance he gets dropped this week, and yeah, it could be if you got that roster spot, I'd be picking him up for sure as we get towards the back end of the year. Another stash option, if he is still out there, Isaiah Davis for the New York Jets. It's not a sexy pick by any means. That Jets offense is so disgusting. Yeah, especially with or without. Honestly, even both ways, with Fields, without, it looks horrible. Aaron Glenn, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out the door within his first year. It's just been that much of a train wreck. But Breece Hall, like you mentioned, Mav, every chance that he gets traded as we approach the trade deadline. And Isaiah Davis, he will be the last man up. Braylon Allen still coming off, still dealing with that injury to his knee. He's probably expected to miss another month or so at least. So Isaiah Davis on a gross offense, but as the RB1 should see all the work if Breece Hall gets traded. You can do a lot worse stashing a running back, and running backs tend to fall off at this time of the year just with all the injuries looming around. So he's a nice stash option there for that one. Moving on to wide receivers for this week, and also just to preface, with all the games on bye, of course, there is six teams on bye. We don't have a whole heap of options here, but wide receiver Darnell Mooney was a nice one, 36% rostered currently, led the team in receiving. He had 68 yards on 83% of the snaps in this game. Bit of a gross game. Michael Penix looks like an absolute cat whenever he's not in Atlanta. One to monitor there, but Darnell Mooney coming off that injury that he's been dealing with, he's going to be on the field a whole heap, and you can definitely do a lot worse in a spot start to get you through the weeks, and he's already come off the bye as well. The next guy we have here, Mav, is a big guy I know you're a big fan of. Who do you have as a wide receiver waiver wire pickup?
I mean, he was a addition last week, and he's back on the list again this week. But we like big booty bitches here, so big booty's back in there, back in the hunt. So yeah, booty should be rostered, has to be rostered. Stephon Diggs is still probably the number one. Booty's probably the number two. But again, with stellar QB player with Drake May, who can sort of get multiple options going at the moment, I think Booty would have to be rostered. He could almost be borderline played in certain matchups as well. He's got really, really high upside. So let's see if Drake May can sort of uncork that potential that we know that Booty can do, or have, should I say. But, he only had 2 catches for 55 yards, but he has that touchdown upside any given week. So I like the Booty call. He's only in 43% of leagues at the moment. So look, majority of the leagues, he'll still be out there, I suppose. They do play Cleveland, Atlanta in the next 2 games, so that's pretty solid defenses or secondaries as such. So that might be a little bit more tough for him. But again, I think he should still be rostered or stashed at least onto your roster, because the upside is insane.
Yeah, could be even a nice little stash out, like you mentioned, Mav. Yeah, because Cleveland, Atlanta, but then it opens up Tampa Bay, the Jets, Cincinnati, and the Giants. So again, 4 matchups after those couple of tough ones, and also that late bye in week 14. So he'll be able to plug and play to get you through in a pinch if you need to. Looking at another guy that we have here, and I'll just mention him purely based off that Nico Collins injury that we saw and concussion. Usually with concussions, guys are probably 80% to be ruled out, especially if they played in the last game of the week. So one to monitor there with Nico Collins. But Jalen Noel, only 4% rostered. Very surprised. I thought it might have been Jaden Higgins getting a leg up in this one with Nico Collins and also Christian Kirk going down. But hey, Noel, he's got a skill set. He's probably the fastest guy on that team that they have. 4 for 77. He can work around in the slot. I think, yeah, with this in mind and what the Texans have seen in this game, I think they'll look to plan and get him a bit more acclimated in their offense moving forward, because they don't really have much choice with the lack of talent around in those ones. Any other names here that you have for us, Mav, in wide receivers?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of names that I've got personally. Marvin Mims, he's very much a yo-yo. Marvin Mims, actually, very up and down. We never know what Marvin Mims week we're ever going to get. Same with Troy Franklin. They're both the same. There's no real number two outside of Cortland Sutton, but Marvin Mims has got a juicy matchup coming up this week against the Cowboys, so should be able to get on the end of a few, I reckon, if he's available and you need a spot start or you need someone there. I think he's emerging very slowly, but emerging. He's season high 7 targets this week on 85 yards. Unfortunately, no touchdowns, but usage nonetheless. And another one I'd be looking at is Keon Coleman still, if he's on the waiver wire. He's only rostered in 65% of leagues, so he'd still be available in some of them. But if Keon Coleman can, again, if he can roster him, cool. He's been pretty average since week 1, to be honest with you. But again, had his bye week. Hopefully he can get on a few. But he does have a tough schedule coming up in the next next 3, 4, 5 weeks there, with Carolina and Kansas and Houston in there as well. So if he's available, again, I wouldn't only put a couple of doubles on him at best, but he's available. If you're desperate, I would roster him.
Yeah, great shout, and especially coming off the bye. Every chance he is more so available. I know, looking at my leagues as we talk about this, he's on the waivers, so I'll be putting in a nice little claim for him there. And got the Bills, they really need him to step up. So hopefully after the bye, he can really give a bit of a crack. And as a nice little stash option in a wide receiver, wasn't pretty today, saw 3 targets for nothing, but Jaden Higgins, the other Texans rookie, again, I'm just looking, if you do have that spare spot, add him as a nice little stash. I think, I hope as we get closer towards the end of the season, he'll be able to start to come good. With rookies, they just need a little bit more time, but yeah, he's a nice little stash there, and he's available 23% of leagues out there. Tight ends, Mav, I'll throw it to you first because I know you love talking about your tight ends. Who's your top tight end target as we look into week 8?
Definitely, without a doubt, my top trade target is Cade Otton. He's the absolute best option, I reckon, is out there. Mike Evans, without Mike Evans, he actually has a role in the offense. I think Mike Evans takes away sort of the intermediate game that Otton sort of specializes in for a tight end. So yeah, he showed last year, he showed this year that without Mike Evans, he's actually a fantasy option. So I really, really like that option. He was okay today. I think there's potential for him to get better. And I'll mention another one as well. Dalton Schultz would be my number 2 tight end as well. Again, with no Nico Collins out there, they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. I know you mentioned a couple of wide receivers in there. But I actually think that Dalton Schultz with the number 1 option on the team in the receiving game. And he was today, with or without Nico Collins, but I think he definitely will be without Nico Collins for a week if he was to miss.
Yeah, tried and true. The doctor, Dalton Schultz, 9 for 98. Mav, if you had to pick between those two, I know Cade Otton, he's got the Saints this week and then a bye. And then Dalton Schultz is off his bye as well. Is there Cade Otton is the number 1 guy, even with that bye in mind? You're purely just looking to pick him up to get you through this week in a pinch?
Yep. Well, I mean, they're both pretty good options, to be honest with you. It's pretty hard to split them. I suppose Dalton Schultz has probably the bigger upside and probably more volume, possibly. So that's obviously a positive. But I think Cade Otton's the younger version of a Dalton Schultz, to be honest with you. Younger version who has probably, well, I guess he's younger, so he's going to have more upside. But I really liked what he did last year. I still had those 3 weeks entrenched in my mind where he dominated, and I feel like he can run that back.
Yeah, much better offense too, with the Bucks and Baker and their O-line. It's night and day between those two teams. I'll throw a quick name out here. Evan Engram, he's at 48% rostered. The last 3 weeks, we've seen his snap percentage trend up in the right way. 41%, 47%, now 56% with a season high. Season high and 8 targets to go along with it. Again, it's not pretty, very short area targets. Been in a PPR league. He will definitely be able to get you through in a pinch. And I think there's every chance he he solidifies himself as the number 2 target behind Cortland Sutton on that team. Another name here, a guy that I'm really, really liking moving forward for the future, Colston Loveland, rookie tight end for the Chicago Bears, rostered in 23% of the leagues. Saw his season high snap percentage too in this game, 67%, only 3 catches for a dismal 24 yards, but Cole Kmet looking to not play this week. I think Colston Loveland can step up in a big way. And we can't forget, I believe he was the 9th overall pick in the draft. It was 9th or 10th off memory. So the talent is there. And he was dealing with that injury to start the year. So he's getting healthier, more acclimated into the Bears offense. I think Ben Johnson definitely has a plan for him. And the last name that we have on our list, Mav, our thumbnail for tonight, Aronde Gadsden, 11%. I'll paint a picture for the listeners here before you give us your thoughts on hit this, but 32.9 points in full PPR, 7 for 164 and a TD in this game. Absolutely phenomenal. They've got Minnesota, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville the next 4 games and a week 12 bye, so still plenty of time there. Is this fool's gold with Aronde Gadsden? I know there's going to be a whole lot of people throwing out massive waiver bids. Is it worth the cost?
Great question. Look, it depends how serious you take him, I suppose. He's really only had, I suppose, back-to-back volume games as such, but one big game, should I say, which was obviously the game in week 7 against the Colts. But I suppose the week before that, Miami, they're a basket case offensively and defensively. He saw 8 targets in that game and was involved. But I do expect that to sort of calm down a little bit. Game script-wise, it wasn't really – they were just throwing the ball. They were playing from behind for the majority of the day and just threw the ball. So there was plenty of targets for everyone really involved. I mean, everyone, Vlad McConkey, Ken Allen, huge, that they all had plenty of targets in this game. So and obviously Gadsden as well. So unfortunately, the receiving room is going to outplay the tight end. Unfortunately, so I don't think that Gadsden's going to have a lot of opportunity. He's still a rookie as well, so he's going to be very up and down. But again, if we're thinking that Justin Herbert's going to be chucking the ball a lot more, then I suppose Gadsden will be in contention and should be rostered. But yeah, I think for the most part, I would probably take Kate Otten or Schultze ahead personally.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like Herbert threw the ball 55 times in this one, season high, 420 passing yards as well. So yeah, massive game script. They were behind all game in this one here. I think Gadsden, if you've got him in Dynasty, well done. Could be a very nice opportunity to look to sell high if you choose to do so. That's our tight ends for the week. Moving on to quarterbacks. Mav, we won't spend too much time here because, again, with all the teams on bye, we don't have a whole heap of options. But a name that we mentioned last week, Joe Flacco, mainly for Superflex. If you need to in a pinch, he's at 15% rostered, available out there in a lot of spots. Had an absolute game-breaking day for us. 31 completions, 342 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the Bengals win against the Steelers to open up the week. I feel like that's the ceiling when it comes to Flacco. 3 touchdown, no wins. Really can't get any better than that. And 300 plus passing yards as well. So if you are in a pinch, they do have a bye coming up in week 10. So you'll have him for a couple more weeks. I think you can definitely do worse than Joe Flacco there. So he's be the number 1 name for me. Who else in it as a quarterback, Mav, or as a waiver wire pickup for the week?
It's probably 2 here. Obviously, that probably will be in contention due to injury, and they're the older QBs. I know you mentioned Joe Flacco being the top option, which I definitely agree in. But Andy Dalton would be one. High ankle sprain there. Bryce Young, he's week 8, he's probably done. I don't think he's going to play, and he'll probably miss multiple weeks. High ankle sprains don't take, they're not a week injury, mate. They're actually 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. They're multiple. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bryce Young misses 2 or 3 games, to be honest with you. So I think Andy Dalton will be, obviously Andy Dalton will come in and play the backup role or play the starting quarterback role now as being the backup. So I think that, what do I think about Andy Dalton? I think, I haven't been too impressed with Bryce Young this year. So, you can have a crack at Andy Dalton. He's not going to cost you much. So if you can just have a crack at him, see what he does. If he's crap, cool, get rid of him. But for Superflex leagues, again, we know how important the QB play is in Superflex leagues. So he would have to be rostered. And same with Mariota. I suppose there's no Daniels. Well, I think there's no Daniels anyway. So just one to watch there. I wouldn't roster him. I'll be honest with you. I would not roster him if Debo and McLaurin miss. If Daniels can't do it against the Cowboys, then Mariota can't do it against anyone. So, he would be a guy that would be fine if the wide receivers are healthy.
Yeah, and they've got Kansas City this week as well for the Commanders, though. Could see a similar scoreline to what they did against the Raiders, especially if, like you mentioned, those top 2 pass catchers are out there. Yeah, very, very tough. But still a good 3 options there if you are caught in a pinch. Mariota does give you that rushing production as well that can hopefully save his day there. That's really it for quarterbacks, but we've got a couple of streaming options. Tight end streamer of the week that we like, and also a quarterback streamer. We will start off with quarterback, mainly in 1 quarterback leagues if you are caught in a pinch with all these buys. But Jackson Dart, 54% rostered, available in a lot of leagues. They are against Philly this week, but even still, we saw what he did against Philly a few weeks ago. Just doesn't matter. He does too much rushing on the ground. He's had 3 rushing touchdowns in his 4 starts so far in the year. So absolutely love to see that. And we saw him throw for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns in the game against the Broncos, which is a very tough defense. So I think quarterback streamer, even if you need to play him throughout the year, Jackson Dart, he looks like he can be very capable for your fantasy lineups for the remainder. Tight end streamer, Mav. I know you banged on about this guy, but who would be the number 1 guy to start for week 8 if you had to?
Yeah, definitely Kate Otten would be mine. I really like the fact that there's potential without Mike Evans there for him. So I kept banging on about that, but it's actually a thing. It really is with Kate Otten. So yes, he had 9 targets in that game against Detroit. They play New Orleans this week, so it's a bit of a juicy matchup. Ibuka should be still healthy enough to play. But yeah, really outside of that, Godwin's there, Tez Johnston's there. They've got Sterling Shepard, but we're not talking about any notable names that are going to be like vacuums targets. So there's an opportunity here for Kate Otten to see 8+ targets in this game with maybe a touchdown to go with it. So really like the matchup and really like the play.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And Mav, for the managers out there that aren't in a FAB waiver system, if they're going off that priority ad, we'll name off our top 3 waiver wire pickups. I know I'll take the reins here to start off. I'll give you guys one each in each position. Tyjae Spears, if I'm looking at a running back, I think Tony Pollard, very big chance that he gets traded. For a wide receiver, for me, I'm taking a punt on Jalen Noel. I think someone has to step up for sure. And he's 4% rostered. You'll be able to get him for nothing. You could probably even pick him up after the waivers run and save your priority bid. And then as a tight end, looking at it more of a long season play, it's Colston Loveland for me, especially coming off the bye. Your top 3, Mav, for week 8.
Again, I would probably have number 1, Tyjae Spears. I agree. I think there's a long-term position or a long-term role there for him in that offense. So I agree. Tony Pollard, with or without him, I think there's going to be a role for him, to be honest. So if Pollard gets shipped out, then even better. Number 2 would be the big booty bitch, Kayshon Boutte. Would be my number 2. I would use definitely an acquisition on him. Top priority, yep, no problem. I'll do that as well. I like what he can bring, and I like what this offense can bring. So you add them together, that could be success. And number 3, it's really a toss-up between Kate Otten and Dalton Schultz. We're talking about, I suppose, rest of season. I mean, for the short term, obviously, Kate Otten, no questions asked. Dalton Schultz, maybe for the long term, they're crying out for number 2 receiver there. They really are. And Schultz might have to step up and do that and be that person. But again, we are expecting Bucky Irving back at some point. We are expecting Godwin back at some point, and we probably are expecting Mike Evans back at some point as well. So there's some guys there that you obviously would take in a pinch over Kate Otten, but that would be 3A and 3B, put it that way.
Love it, guys. That will wrap things up here for our Waiver Wire show for week 8. We will be dropping a nice little shorter video tomorrow on YouTube early in the morning. Another buy low and sell high edition. And I do just have to throw this in here for Alex. Thanks heaps for throwing in the comments, mate. Mav loves himself some booty. That he does. He's a booty guy for sure. But guys, buy low and sell high dropping early in the morning. And we'll have tomorrow night's Super Coach trade in and trade out show for week 8 as well, which is an absolute beast. So thanks heaps for tuning in. For Maverick and myself, this is the Insight NFL show. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Go Booty.